developed people well, I thought. And I happened to get along very well with the fencers at both places. And when it came time to choose a permanent spot, Ado Marion said, look, I'm only a couple of years away from retirement myself, but you make up your mind. And he said, frankly, I think MIT at this point has a better deal for you than Harvard would have for you. And so with their blessings, I went to work here at MIT. And I asked Silvio, I said to Silvio, Silvio, you know, I teach a different way from you. He said, well, I've already had that with Ed Richards, who taught a very different way also.
I can imagine.
He said, so you go right ahead and teach them what you can, and I'll fill in where I think that you're missing. But he says, I don't want to have any arguments with you. He said, I'll just show you what I've been teaching them, and you let me know if there's somebody you feel that I can do better with in a short period of time than you can. And that seemed like a very nice arrangement, and it worked out very well.
So you were developing your own coaching style.
I was, yes, very definitely.
And was it just your intuitions?
It was purely from my past observations, my past experiences, seeing how other coaches worked with their students and so on, and what I'd also learned from the combat sports too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing that was most important to me for MIT was, first I tried the route of recruiting. I said, well, Silvio didn't do enough recruiting, so I'll try and go out and recruit. Mm-hmm. So I did that, and my first 3 people who came in, who I thought I had helped, they couldn't come out to fencing practice because they were trying to keep up with the other students with the academic subjects. Mm-hmm. And so I was getting them only once a week. Well, what can you teach them if they're only coming once a week? If they're only coming once a week, it's recreational, period. Yeah. And so that didn't work. And so I decided, gee whiz, look at all these people that are coming out for PE, because my classes were growing even larger than Silvio's. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, I should be able to find some athletes among these people. Like, maybe I just have to get them going the right way. And so I would show them the real weapons that I had been building up a collection of real weapons, and I would show them how you use them. And of course, these students were into that kind of thing also. You remember how Society for Creative Anachronism was starting up at that point also in a big way, and MIT was a very large part of it with the students' extra time. And so I was able to show them the real weapons that were being used, and to handle them. And then I said, well, now you're not going to use these, but you'll use the modern equivalent of them if you want to try out for the team. Yeah. And so I was able to recruit quite a number of people who had their studies in order and were able to spend the extra time. Unlike Ado Marion and Silvio, I was just a rank beginner, and my wife said, yeah, if you want to work until midnight, Eric, go ahead and be foolish and work until midnight. And Silvio would tell me, oh, you're going to go to the grave and early before you should, you know. And Ado would say, do you think you could catch up with Harvard by doing this? Don't be ridiculous, you know. But the students loved it, because they could come in any time and take a lesson. And you know who else did that very effectively was Henry Haratounian, who at that time was the coach at Brandeis, and then later on a very successful coach at Yale. And he used the same technique also, being available to the students. And they appreciated it, and they produced for you. Yeah.
So you were coaching all 3 weapons. You were developing the men's team.
I was coaching all 3 weapons, right? And
you couldn't really depend on having any experience beforehand. So
that's correct. And I got Joe Levis to come and start fencing with us more frequently, and I tried to pick his brain and his experience to help out also. Unfortunately, none of the students could match Joe Levis's ability to put together a good game, and I could only go halfway with it myself. You know, but nonetheless, it was his determination to see a game through and to play and use patience and so on like that, all of which came in handy in in illustrating these things to the students.
Right.
And
So
say-
talking about the game strategy
Talking
as well
about
as
the game
just
strategy with
movies.
them, and that intrigued them because the ordinary way of coaching, the coaches didn't talk about strategy very much. It was, you learn how to execute the move, and the rest of it will take care of itself. And these students that I had here were not interested only in technique. They felt that they could go beyond that. And they did. And I remember winning some matches just because our students could count the bouts better than the other students could.
Use every advantage.
Use every advantage, right? And then the women's team, when it came to